Good morning again. My name is Mary Commons and I'm with Aiken Technical College, and I'm also a North Augusta board member. This is my first year, so I'm glad to be here. I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. Jessica Kumas has 21 years of experience as an NCIDQ certified commercial interior designer. Jessica joined McWaters in 2012 as a business relations director and has strategically utilized her professional background to support McWaters' relationship with architecture, design, and commercial real estate communities and their clients to achieve success in their business goals. Jessica's expertise and experience serves as a valuable resource to the design and business community. So welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having us today. I think this is great that everyone got to go around and introduce themselves, because it gives me a sense of who our audience is, and I'm glad that my coworkers got a chance to stand up. I wanted to recognize them. Joey Mixon is here with me from our Columbia office, and Nan Prowse is our market president here in Columbia, and Kim Grant is our workplace consultant. They are a fantastic team here in Augusta and locally here to serve you. But we wanted to come today to talk about the workplace. Obviously, you know, from my background, I'm an interior designer and I'm very passionate about the workplace. And fun little fact about me is I was actually the interior designer for this project back in a previous position when I worked for the architectural firm. So I'm very happy to be back in this room. It was a lot of fun working on this project and working with the staff here years ago. So McWaters is a company that partners with a lot of different manufacturers. And one of our main partners is Steelcase. And Steelcase is a fantastic company. They're a 105-year-old company, a global company. And what I really love about them is that they're really based in research and development. So everything that they do is based on making the workplace better. They're not there just to fill a gap and say, hey, we need a new version of a chair, a task chair, or a new version of a desk. Although they do very well at that, they really base it on what does the market need and how can we help our business partners improve the workplace? Because ultimately that's our goal, is we want satisfaction in the workplace. And we know you as business leaders want the same thing. So Steelcase they've done a lot of research over their 100 years, but recently they conducted, and I brought with me the results, and it's a nice little thick book, a global study on workplace engagement and the power of place, how your workplace can really make you more successful. And I want to share, our presentation today is going to be about these results, and it's a nice little summary of this thick book. But they started off research by asking a question: what keeps CEOs and entrepreneurs up at night? What's that thing that really, what are they thinking about? What's most important to them? Because once we understand that, we can understand how we can help them. And so these are some of the things that they heard when they asked these questions. I'm going to kind of get these up on the screen quickly here. There's two here that really stand out to me, and things that I have heard very specifically from clients. The need to attract and retain the best talent. You know, today's market, we're coming back out of some tough times. It's very competitive, and it's very important for companies to attract and retain good talent. Because what's our most number one asset in business? It's not what's that? I heard somebody say people, right? It's your people. It's not your product. Everybody has product. It's your people. It's who's helping you sell that product, whether it's banking services or, you know, pencils or t-shirts or whatever that might be. Your people are your most important asset. So that's really important to business leaders. Another one that kind of stands out to me is that our people need to cope with rapidly changing conditions. The way we work now and the way we're going to work in the future is changing dramatically. And we'll talk about that as we go through the survey, and we found some findings about what things are changing in the workplace. Do you guys agree with a lot of these? Are you feeling this as business owners, that these are some, maybe can relate to some of these facts? An overarching theme was that people really want to grow the business. Ultimately, that's what they want to do. And growth can be expanding your business, but it can also just be growing your sales, maybe with less people. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean getting bigger, but ultimately the goal is grow your business and be successful. And so that takes resilience. You know, in today's marketplace, there's a lot of challenges. And those companies that are able to face those challenges head on, who are really able to overcome challenges and figure out new solutions for being innovative, are really the ones that are going to thrive. And so the idea, this is a new kind of buzzword in the industry, this idea of employee engagement. So we all just talked about how people are our most important asset, right? So people have got to be engaged in your business mission, in your culture, you know, just in everything that they do every day. Engagement is very important. They've got to be present, not just physically present, but they've got to be on board with what the mission of the company is. So what are engaged employees? An engaged employee is one that gives discretionary effort. It's those people that go above and beyond that task that you've asked them to do, right? It's the kind of employee you want. It's the people, you know, the benefits of a highly engaged employee here, I think, give a great profile of the perfect employee, right? You know, they have higher productivity, they have fewer safety instances, they have less absenteeism. I mean, this is what we all want for our workforce, right? We want highly engaged employees. But what our study was finding from the impact of engagement is that, 19%, this fact is really about, you know, hitting the bottom line. So a 19% increase in operating income for companies that have employees that are highly engaged. That's a pretty good number. It's a pretty good percentage. It really does begin to affect the bottom line. But conversely, we found in the studies that there's really, you know, in reality, there's just as many disengaged workers as there are engaged workers. And you can see here the impact of the disengaged workers. Those are the ones that are, you know, maybe hostile in the work environment. They're the ones that are just checking the box. They're not fully engaged with the culture or the mission of your company. They're there just to get a paycheck. Well, how can you turn these folks? Or how can you, turn them into engaged folks, or not attract these type of people, maybe weed them out? It's important for your business. So can the workplace help? You know, we understand, and I think we all agree that workplace engagement is very important, but what do you do about it? You know, there's lots of different things you can do about it. You can increase your benefits to attract, people that want, better benefits, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be engaged. You can, give higher salaries. There's lots of different things you can do. But Steelcase and folks like me, designers, said, you know what, we really know that the environment can make a big difference. It really does have an impact on how people feel about going into work. So we wanted to start looking into that and coming up with some solutions to help. So the study is based, as I mentioned, Steelcase is a global company. They looked at 17 different countries, over 12,000 different participants, and then they synthesized it down to about 5 key findings that they want to share with their partners on how engagement in the workplace can be improved. So we're going to go through these 5 key findings, and then we'll kind of summarize with some solutions. And I wanted to take a moment to say, even though this is a global study and they looked at countries all over the world, you might think, how does that relate to me? I'm, a company in North Augusta or in Aiken. But if you think about it, a lot of us, we are on a global level. I mean, a small t-shirt company can be global if they're selling their product on the internet and they have vendors that are across the country. They're global. Steelcase is a global company because they have locations everywhere. Does anybody here have networking, outside of your territory with your business? Yeah? So the first key finding was that 1 in 3, more than 1 in 3 workers is disengaged. So when we looked at the type of people we want, when they surveyed these people and they asked these questions to find out where engagement kind of fell within the workplace, that's not a great statistic there. And so you kind of look at it on a seesaw here. You've got about of the people surveyed, you're at 37% disengaged, 34% engaged. You got kind of 29% people in the middle that are neutral. So those are the ones we want to, that you're going to want to convert. You're going to want to convert these people over. And so what that told us was that, employee engagement positively correlates with workplace satisfaction. And I'll show you some statistics on that. So what they did is they asked very pointed questions about how satisfied people were with their workplace, and then tried to figure out if that correlated with, your highly engaged clients. And what they found is, or your highly engaged employees, and they found that it does. It's not a cause and effect, so there's not, it's not necessarily that your workplace will equal satisfaction, but there's definitely a relationship there. And so they kind of dug down into that, and they said, some of the key findings were, well, why? What made these people satisfied in their work environment, therefore more highly engaged? And the first thing was that they found was about choice and control over their work experiences. So if you think about it, when you come into a typical work environment, you might go into an office, or you might go into a cubicle, or you might go into an open work environment. They found that the people that had the most choice and control of where they can work throughout the day, depending on what the task is, were highly satisfied with and more highly engaged. So if I can choose where to work in the office based on the task at hand, the engagement went up significantly. Also, engaged employees had more control. Well, so here it's more of a breakdown. So they get a little deep into some of the percentages. The next one is that they can concentrate easily. So the ability to be able to focus on the task at hand, whatever it might be, that sometimes we have a lot of disruptions in work nowadays, especially in those kind of open work environments. Some people may have those. Even in a private setting, if there's constant distractions and you're not able to focus, that can impact your engagement. So those that found that or said that they had the opportunity to concentrate or focus were more highly engaged. Working in groups and teams, again, as long as that was provided in an appropriate setting, mostly highly engaged. Movement throughout the day. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this as a buzzword, kind of an issue. They're saying now that sitting is the new smoking for people's health, and so a lot of people are looking into ways to, how can I stand up and work? It might be a stand-up desk. It might even, I bet there's probably someone in here or someone in your office who's rigged up a stand-up desk, right? Put a crate on their desk so that they can stand up during the day. We see that a lot. And it might even also be just the ability to get up and walk around and take a phone call. I'm going to call Joey out because he does that a lot in our office. I see him walking around on his cell phone. But sometimes you need that. You just need to kind of get up and get re-energized. So that ability to be able to move around throughout the day really impact engagement as well. Being able to freely express and share your ideas, that might be one-on-one, that might even be virtual digitally. If you've got a distributed team and you're a global company or you're a national company and you need to have a meeting with someone across the country, you need to be able to express yourself and share your ideas easily and efficiently. So basically, kind of to sum up that finding too, is that choice increases your overall satisfaction. The third finding was about technology. How many people in here have a smartphone? Everybody raised their hand, right? Pretty much. What they found was that fixed technology is still mostly prevalent in the work environment. So when they asked, what does your employer provide you with? Does your employer, and most people were saying, they still have a landline phone, they still have a desktop computer, and it kind of goes down from there. So, we talked now just a second ago about choice and control. So if you had choice and control, sometimes fixed technology can be an inhibitor, it can be a constraint. So if you don't have mobile technology, if you're not like Joey and you can't pick up your phone and walk around and talk to your client in the office, it can be a constraint. It's not saying it's good or bad either way, because certainly there are industries that, you've got to have that fixed technology. It's important. That's the only way you can work. So how do you balance maybe some other ways of getting movement throughout the day if you can't make your technology mobile? But we're seeing this change a little bit. We're seeing people utilize mobile technology a lot more. I, for one, have a phone. I don't have my phone up here with me right now, good thing, because someone would be emailing me. But I do probably 80% of my work on my phone, you know, returning emails, making phone calls, connecting with people, collaborating, and I use my fixed technology a lot less. The fourth key finding was that, you know, really traditional work styles still do persist. You see a lot of things in the media, you'll see in magazines, design magazines, these open work environments, really fancy and like Google. Has anybody seen the movie, The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, you know, when the two traditional sales guys go and work for Google and just that whole atmosphere and the sleep pods and the, you know, the free food and the break room. And I mean, that's a reality, but it's not a reality for everybody. There still are the need for private offices and formal settings. And so we can't forget about that. There's not a one size fits all for the workplace. We've got to make sure that we understand what the needs are, what the culture is, and that we're responding to that. You know, 60% of people are still working in individual or shared private offices. That's a fact. And this breaks it down a little bit more there with the percentages. And finally, it gets in kind of to the idea of this is a global study. So they looked at the cultural impact on engagement. I have a client right now who is a global company, and they have a lot of offices in India. And the communication, the way they communicate virtually, the language barriers sometimes, the time differences, the things like that, that really has an impact on how they work throughout the day and how people are engaged and how they stay productive. And so they studied that and kind of layered that into countrywide, and you can get a lot of that information from this book. I'm happy to share. If anybody wants to see this later on, or if you want a copy of this, I'm happy to do it. They break it down by country. So you're literally going through here and you're looking at the study, how it was, how the statistics came out in the Netherlands, or how it came out in France, or how it came out in India. So it's very, very interesting information. But the bottom line is that engagement matters. And engaged employees are those employees that, you know, we talked about challenges earlier, and you want to be resilient, you want your company to be resilient, you want to be able to take on challenges. Your engaged employees are going to be your most resilient asset. And this talks a little bit about what's resiliency. It's those people that can be adaptive, companies that can be flexible, respond to change. They're sustainable over time. This is a nice quote about how to build resilience here. Encouraging adaptation, agility, connectivity, diversity. These are all important things in the workplace today. And so we get to the idea of power of place. That's kind of what we call this idea of making the work environment a better place and the resilient workplace. And what a resilient workplace is really an ecosystem of spaces that really support all of those things that we're looking for engaged employees, right? And so when you think about a resilient workplace, you've got to put in your people, your most important asset, and there's got to be a correlation between place. The place that ecosystem that supports what people need to feel highly engaged in their workplace. And so I want to talk a little bit about this. We have another really great presentation specifically about well-being and how physical, cognitive, and emotional aspects of your everyday work life impact engagement. And so this is just a little snippet of that presentation. But we really have to think about those very important assets holistically. It's not just about well-being and being happy in the workplace. It's not just about the physical. You know, it's not about having a really comfortable chair to sit in or a really nice office. It's also about and feeling healthy within the work environment. But it's also about how do we think better. It's about cognitive. And there is, you know, if you think about it, if you're not firing on all full cylinders, that's going to affect how you feel physically, or how you feel physically can affect how you think, right? So it's all interconnected. An emotional connection. A lot of, we also have a really great presentation on millennials in the workplace. And we were dealing with a workplace now that has millennials, we have Gen X, we have baby boomers. There's a lot of different experiences within the workplace, and there's a lot of different things that people are looking for in the workplace. They say that, a lot of the studies say millennials are looking for a purpose. They like careers and opportunities that give them a real sense of purpose in the world, that they're making a difference. I think that has to do with just being young. I don't think that has to be with that generation in particular. But there's a lot of things from an emotional level that we have to take into consideration. And then also we have to think about that during the day, people are doing lots of different things. So during the day, you might be focusing on writing a memo that you've got to get ready for a meeting in the afternoon where you're going to be spending a half an hour collaborating with your coworkers. The whole morning's gone by, you're kind of pooped, you're kind of tired, you're going to need to get some lunch, you're going to need to socialize. It's important to have friends at work, right? It's important to feel you're much more engaged when you feel a connection to the people you work with. So socialization is very important to the workplace. And then rejuvenation, taking a break from what you're doing, maybe even taking a break is just to do some learning. Maybe you're doing some research on a particular topic, but that's also kind of resetting your brain. So during the day, we're doing a lot of different things. And so that kind of brings us to our ecosystem. That ecosystem of place has really got to support those different modes of work. So the idea of posture, we talked a little bit earlier about movement within the workplace, the ability to sit, to stand, to lounge, to walk during the day is very important. Presence, again, making sure that you have the opportunity to not just get closed in your private office, but there's a place where you can meet. Maybe you're meeting with one or two people. Well, you definitely don't need to meet in a big giant boardroom with one or two people. You need more collaboration spaces, maybe quick collaboration if you're working on a project, or you need some feedback from a peer. They're finding that a lot of engaged employees are those that can really connect with each other and create innovative ideas together. And that means you've got to have a place to do that. It's also digital and virtual. What type of technology do we have to be able to communicate within our companies? And then finally, privacy. Privacy is important. There's kind of been a little bit of a pushback in our industry. A couple of years ago, like 10, 12 years ago, Kim can attest to this, it was all about the open work environment and making those Google-like spaces. And all of a sudden, people said, you know what? Sometimes there's introverts within our company. Sometimes there's those people that really can't function well in that kind of open environment. They need more privacy, or they need the choice to have more privacy. And also, your teams might need privacy. That idea of being disrupted during the day, you're trying to focus on getting a project done, but there's a lot of things happening around you. How are you able how is that team able to work together in a way that they can focus and collaborate? So I'm wrapping it up. I did this really quick because I knew I only had 30 minutes. I usually have about an hour, but I wanted to hit a couple of solutions, and then certainly we can have, if you have a few questions, we can go through that. But these are just some pictures. I only picked 3. I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot of pictures, but just some inspiration things that maybe some thought starters, or that might get you thinking about it. These are height adjustable desks that we talked about. This is really common now, and I'm getting asked about this a lot. Whether it's incorporated into a workstation like you see here, or it's something that you add onto a workstation, or it's something that just, again, gives the person the choice and control over how they work. This gives you a little inspiration here, hopefully. Teleconferencing and being able to connect with people. Phone conferences. How many people hate telephone conferences? I hate meetings on the phone. I know Joey does. And why we hate it so much is we can't see that person. We don't have that face-to-face connection. You miss out on a lot of facial cues when you're just listening to an audio, right? So why not have, technology is amazing now. Sometimes it's challenging, right? This morning we had a few challenges with getting things started. But there's a lot of ways that we can improve the way we communicate with each other and being able to effectively collaborate. And then finally, this is a good inspiration for the idea of privacy. So that idea, this is a cool little setting where, say these folks may have a private office and they're kind of stuck in there every day and they're kind of doing their work. This might be a little getaway where they can just check their emails. This might even work really well for a contingent worker. Maybe you have people that don't have a dedicated office within your company because maybe they're sales-based and they're out every day moving around. They really just need a little place to kind of touch down, have some privacy, get a little bit of work done before they go back out. So again, it's just kind of a thought starter, a creative way of addressing the need for privacy and a smaller workplace footprint. So in summary, obviously business growth, employee engagement, resilient workplace, these are all interconnected and very important. And so I want to leave you just with a few questions. Hopefully you'll go back to your companies and you'll ask, how engaged was my organization? What can I do? It might be just very simple things that you can come up with. Can you build a resilient culture if your employees are disengaged? How do you begin to address some of those issues you might have? And these are a little slow. And, obviously no one wants to take the risk of their company not being able to be productive. So I hope that was interesting, thought-provoking, if nothing else, to think about. If there's any questions, I'm happy to share any of our experiences. Whatever, did you think it was thought-provoking? Good, yeah?
What's
Great.
the most common setup for organizations that are more cubicle-based, like call centers?
Yeah.
Have you done any call centers, and what's the layout?
Absolutely. We've done call centers, and layouts are still, a lot of times what we're hearing a lot is optimizing real estate. That's another big buzzword. People are trying to do more with less, and because you can, and technology is what allows us to do that. The days of having a large PC, big tower and screens, you just don't have those anymore. People have laptops, technology is getting smaller, more compact. People are working on tablets and things like that. So you can begin to kind of shrink the footprint. And a call center automatically has a small footprint anyway. You've got a person on a phone or whatever. But we've got a client right now who's a software developer. They literally need 36 inches of space, and they're packed in there elbow to elbow, back to back, really dense, but they're focusing, they're able to kind of focus on what they're doing, but what we're trying to do is make sure that they have a way to get away from that. So some of those teams might be working in these little tiny, like there's no desk and there's a little tiny storage for their personal belonging, or in some cases they might even have a locker when they come in, and that's where their personal belongings are, and their desk is just their work surface, and they're doing software programming. But during the day, they might need to get up and go and maybe sit in one of those, another little kind of cubicle, or go into a much smaller. Conference rooms we find are getting smaller as well. And that supports those open work environments where people are working in much tinier little spaces.
I'm trying to see a partnership here. Putting anybody on the spot, AT&T being our presenting sponsor for today, and that technology. Did you ever consult, in spaces like that as far as electronics, whether it's headgear that can help drown out sound?
Absolutely.
That are, having conversations and someone else is sitting right next to them?
Right. We've certainly looked for partners that can provide that type of technology. I guess the presentation's over. I can do a little bit of a plug. McWaters does a lot of audiovisual and technology programming and integration as well. So we really wanted to be kind of a one-stop shop so that when our clients come to us, we're not only helping with their furniture, but we're helping with the audiovisual and technology, and we're helping move the people in, and we're helping with the flooring. So we can kind of go through that process with them together and make sure that they do have the appropriate tools. And we have had that come up where, like, well, how am I going to deal with all the noise if I've got to sit here and focus? And maybe it's bringing in white noise, that kind of distributes throughout the open work environment, and that kind of dampens the sound. We use that in our office. we have all of our salespeople in one big room, and they're on the phone and they're talking, they're having conversations, and but we use a system that kind of has a noise that sounds like it's really just like your HVAC, you know, and after a while you don't notice it, but it really does make a difference when it dampens kind of the conversations. And when we demonstrate it, we'll turn it off, and you can hear a pin drop. You know, people are like, "Oh, turn that back on," you know. But it really does kind of help mitigate some of that. So there's lots of different ways that you can address those issues. Anything else? Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.